These games are held at the multi-zone where they carry a large selection of A Song of Ice and Fire products. Be sure to check out the link in the description for a 10% off code.
What is dead may never die, but rises again, harder and stronger.
How stark is the stuff of legend and their family words? Winter is coming.
The Stark Army, NCUs, Eddard Stark, Hand of the King, Sansa Stark, Little Bird, and Peter Baelish, Littlefinger, a unit of Crannogman trackers, a unit of Tully Cavaliers with a Winterfell Guardian, a unit of Winterfell Guards with Mira Reed, finally a unit of Stark Archers with the Army Commander, Roderick Cassell, Master-at-Arms.
The Greyjoy Army, NCUs, Balon Greyjoy, King of Salt and Rock, Asha Greyjoy would be Queen, and Peter Baelish, Littlefinger, a unit of Black Tide chosen with Sandor Clegane, a unit of Ironmakers with the Widower, a unit of Ironborn Bowmen with Jokin, finally a unit of House Harlaw Reapers with the Army Commander Eric Ironmaker Anvil Breaker.
Round 1. The scenario is a dance with dragons. The first objective gives Vicious. The middle one makes an enemy vulnerable. The final one allows for a 3-inch shift. The Starks are given first player by the Greyjoys. Round 1 opens with the Stark's Littlefinger taking the bag. He spends one of his tokens to use the letter and draws 2 cards and place a weakened token on the Iron Makers. Asha then takes the letter. Her influence goes onto the Iron Makers and removes their weakened token. They draw 2 cards and puts a weakened token on the Stark Archers. Eddard then takes the horse and his influence goes on the Reapers. The Archers then maneuver forward 5 inches. Balin activates and passes. Sansa takes the crown and zaps the Archers. They pass their test. The Black Tide chosen activate and march forward 10 inches. The Starks play swift reposition to move the Archers forward 3 inches. The Crannogmen then activate and march forward 12 inches and pivot towards the center. The Reapers activate and march forward, staying out of range of the Stark Archers. The Winterfell Guard activate and maneuver up next to the Archers. Start of their turn, the Greyjoys play Finger Dance on the Iron Makers. The Archers then activate and march forward 10 inches. The Tully Cav then maneuver up next to the Winterfell Guard. The Greyjoy's Littlefinger then takes the swords, but has no action available. The Stark Archers activate and maneuver forwards and to the side. The Iron Makers activate and Raiding Call is played to add a pillage token to them. They then march forward 10 inches and pivot towards the Stark Archers. End of round 1.
Round 2.
Round 2 opens with the Greyjoy's Littlefinger taking the bag and using one of his tokens to replace the zone with the horse. For taking the bag, the Iron Makers and the Reapers get pillage tokens from Eric and the Black Tide Chosen's abilities. The Iron Makers then maneuver towards the Stark Archers. Eddard takes the horse and his influence goes on to the Iron Makers. The Archers then maneuver back and away from the Iron Makers. Belatedly, the Starks use Roderick's Mark Target ability to put a vulnerable onto the Iron Makers. Asha then takes the swords. Her influence goes on to Eric and the Reapers. The zone is unused. The Stark's Littlefinger takes the crown and zaps the Ironborn Archers. They fail and take 2 wounds. Balin then takes the letter, draws 2 cards, and puts a weakened token on the Tully Cav. The Stark Archers then activate, shift back, and fire at the Iron Makers with 8 dice. 4 hit, but they are weakened. and on the re-roll 1 more misses. The Ironmakers block all 3, but the vulnerable is spent, and on the re-roll they still save all 3. The Ironmakers activate and take 4 hits from hidden traps. They block all 4. They then maneuver forward. The Cranogmen then use Mark Target to put a vulnerable token back on the Ironmakers. They then shoot them with 7 dice and 4 hit. The Ironmakers block them all. The vulnerable token is spent, and on the re-roll they fail 2, taking 2 wounds. Iron's Endurance is played to block 1 more, and the card is attached to their unit. They pass their panic test and heal 1 back from the Iron's Endurance's effect. The Ironborn archers activate and maneuver forward. Raiding Call is played to heal 1 wound to the archers and add a pillage to the Black Tide chosen. The Winterfell Guard activate and successfully charge the Ironmakers in the flank. They land 6 hits, but re-roll all but the 1 6. They get 2 more 6s for 3 precisions and 1 hit. The Ironmakers fail to save the 1 hit and take 4 wounds. They then fail their panic test, but play Gold's Allure to re-roll 2 of the dice, but still fail for 3 wounds. Iron's Endurance then makes the Winterfell Guard weakened. The Reapers activate and declare a charge into the Winterfell Guard's flank. Before they do, Mira uses her hidden traps and they take 4 hits. They fail 2 and take 2 wounds. Their charge is successful. They retroactively use Divide the Spoils to gain a pillage from the Black Tide chosen. Then they hit the guard with 8 dice and play Steel's Might to gain Vicious. With the re-roll, all 8 hit. The guard only saves 2 and takes 6 wounds. They then fail their panic test for another 3 wounds. The Tully Cav then activate and move in to charge the Reapers. They roll a 1 but play Devastating Impact to get a re-roll. Shockingly, they roll another 1. The charge is still successful, so the Reapers become panicked and vulnerable, but it is also disorderly from the 1, so they get no re-rolls or cards. On the attack, only 5 of 10 dice hit. Their weakened token is spent, and only 2 hits get through after the re-roll. The Reavers are saving on 6s and manage to block both. Their vulnerable token is spent, and the Drowned God smiles on them as they miraculously roll 2 6s again. They auto-pass their panic test and heal 1 from Dauntless. Asha's influence then puts 2 hits on the Tully Cav, and they fail 1, taking 1 wound. Start of their turn, Greyjoys use Sandor's Threaten to put a weakened token back on the Tully Cav. The Black Tide chosen then activate and attempt to charge the Tully Cav, but they fail. They take a panic test and pass it. The round ends and the Greyjoys score 2 points for the 2 objectives they control. The center objective allows them to make the Tully Cav vulnerable, and the far objective lets them shift the Ironborn archers forward 3 inches. End of round 2.
Round 3.
A major misplay occurred here. The Greyjoy player claimed first player again, and the Stark player mistakenly agreed. Round 3 begins with the Greyjoys using Eric's Divide the Spoils to take a token from the Reapers and add it to the Black Tide chosen. Littlefinger then takes the bag and uses his last token to use the swords. The Black Tide chosen and the Reapers both gain a pillage token from the bag. The Reapers then attack the Winterfell Guard with 8 dice. 5 hit. They block 2, but 3 wounds get through, killing them. Greyjoys score 1 victory point. The Ironmakers pivot. Eddard then takes the swords and the Stark archers shift back and use Roderick's mark target on the Iron Makers. Eddard's influence also goes on them. The archers then shoot into the Iron Makers with 8 dice. 5 arrows hit them, and they fail to block 2 of them. The vulnerable token is spent, but they still save these 3. They take 2 wounds. They pass their panic test and heal 1 wound. Asha then takes the letters to draw 2 cards. Her influence goes on to the Reapers, and the panic token is removed. The Stark archers are then weakened. The Stark's Littlefinger then takes the horse, and the Tullycav retreat for 7 inches. The Reapers pivot once disengaged. The Reapers then activate, and Finger Dance is played on them. They declare a charge on the Tullycav. The charge is successful. Reaper's fervor causes the Tullys to become panicked. Attacking with 8 dice, only 3 hit. They re-roll and 4 more hit for 7. The Tullycav are only able to block 1. They take 6 wounds. They then fail their panic test for 2, plus 1 from Reaper's fervor for 3 more wounds. Sansa then takes the crown and replaces the zone with assault orders. She attacks the Reapers with the Tullycav. They roll 4 dice and 3 hit. Their weakened token is spent, and 1 more misses. The Reapers block 2 hits and take 2 wounds. On the panic test, the Reapers are getting multiple morale boosts, putting them to a 2+, so they auto-pass the panic test and heal 2 wounds back. Then, Asha's influence does 2 hits back to the Tullys. They fail both and take 2 wounds, leaving them at 1 health. Iron's endurance also triggers, making them weakened. The Black Tide chosen then activate and attempt to charge the Tullys, but they fail. They take a panic test and pass it. The Stark archers then activate and shift sideways. They then fire into the flank of the Reapers. They land 6 hits. Their weakened token is spent, and on the re-roll only 4 dice hit the mark. The Reapers block 2 and take 2 wounds, but again due to their morale boosts, they auto-pass their panic test and heal both wounds back. Asha again puts 2 hits on the Tullycav for passing a morale test, and the Tullycav fail to block 1 and are killed. Greyjoys score 1 victory point. At this point, the Starks concede the game. Greyjoys win 4-0.
If you enjoy this content, please take a moment to like and subscribe. May the old gods and the new smile on you. Good gaming.